save my dad, my mom was raped by kidnappers. From that day on, everyone called me a bastard. They said I was the child of a rapist. My dad is an executive at the world's top wealth group. 22 years ago, my mom was pregnant with me. She went to the beach for vacation with my dad, but they met kidnappers. To save my dad, my mom led the kidnappers away alone. Dad ran away on his own. He was survived in the end, but the kidnappers were inhuman. They raped my mom, who was already pregnant. Everyone said my mom was a shame for the Anderson family. They said she should die, but my mom refused. For me and her belly, she tried hard to live. My dad cared about his reputation. He couldn't take the initiative to divorce my mom, because my mom saved his life. If he broke up with her, he would be ungrateful. That would hinder his promotion. So he put my mom under house arrest in a remote mountain villa. He told everyone it was to let my mom rest well during her pregnancy. But that villa was dilapidated. It had long been abandoned. How could it be a good place to rest during pregnancy? Soon after, my mom only received divorce papers. Dad quickly brought his mistress into our home. On his wedding day, my mom gave birth to me. My mother and I lived in a remote villa for 8 years. In those 8 years, my father never visited us once. Only 2 servants were there to care for us. But they were really there to monitor and imprison us. We were not allowed to run away. No outsiders were allowed to contact us. The villa was deep in the mountains and forests. Guarding us was a miserable job. The 2 servants were bitter and angry. They always took their anger out on my mother and me. They called my mother a bitch. They said she should just die. They called me the child of a rapist. My mother tried to protect me and fought with them. But every time, they beat her until she was covered in bruises. One night, after they beat her again, I hid under their bed. I wanted to pretend to be a ghost and scare them. But I overheard them talking. The insults and the beatings were all ordered by my stepmother. She wanted us to suffer so much that we would end ourselves. I believe my stepmother would kill us herself if she could. But my father's business was booming. If they were caught killing us, their reputation would be ruined. My stepmother didn't dare take the risk. They were very clever. Even if they were discovered, they could make the servants the scapegoats. Ourselves ending was the best possible outcome for them. They were waiting for that day so long. Life goes on. I have kept this secret for 3 years, until one day I told my mother about this. But she didn't make a scene. She just started teaching me how to read and write. And some rules I didn't understand. I wasn't satisfied. I wanted to find my father and ask for the truth, but my mother strictly stopped me. I was rebellious and didn't listen. I tried to run away. One day, a delivery truck came to the villa. I snuck onto the truck. 3 days later, I followed it back to the Anderson estate. That was the first time I saw Anderson Mansion. Wow. It was grand and magnificent. I was dressed in rags. They treated me like a beggar and kicked me out. At the gate, I saw my father coming back in a luxury car. He was with a girl dressed in fancy clothes. I ran forward and called him Dad. But my father's bodyguard kicked me to the ground. My father looked at me with pure disgust. He coldly ordered them to send me back to the villa. He looked at me like I was a piece of trash. I heard the girl ask him who I was. My father spoke to her gently.
Don't look, Sophia. Just a beggar. Beggars are dirty.
Later, I found out that girl was my stepmother's daughter, Sophia Anderson. At only 7 years old, she was already the pride of the family, and I was just a beggar in their eyes. I thought if I studied hard, Dad would love me too, just like he loved Sophia. So I studied with my mother as if my life depended on it. As I grew up, I became more and more beautiful, but my mother only grew more worried. She forbade me from dressing up. She even forced me to look ugly. She didn't want the servants to see my real face. When I turned 22, something changed. My mother said something to the guards. They actually took her back to the Anderson estate. She was only gone for half a day. When she came back, she was drowning in sadness. I didn't know what happened there. She wouldn't tell me anything, but she became very strict. She forced me to practice piano and dance. She pushed me to study non-stop. Sometimes, I couldn't handle her pressure. Then she would hold me and break down in tears. Only a few months later, my mother passed away. It happened without any warning. She left a note filled with confessions. She wrote that she was the shame of the Anderson family. She wrote that she didn't deserve to live. I didn't believe a single word of that note. She couldn't be so cruel as to leave me all alone in this world. I fought with the 2 servants. I screamed that they had forced her to do it, but they beat me until I passed out on the floor. When I woke up, my mother had already been cremated. All that was left was a jar of ashes. The forensic report was cold and final. It said my mom had brought all this upon herself. The servants mocked me.
Stop struggling.
She made a deal with your stepmother. She died to save the Anderson family's face. In exchange, you get to marry into a good family. Your stepmother is kind. She found you a husband. He's a butcher. For someone like you, this is a blessing. The Andersons won't feed you for another day. Tomorrow, you'll be handed over to that butcher.
The servants laughed, feeling triumphant. They were finally free from guarding us. This time I didn't scream or fight. The servants thought I had given up. But in the middle of the night, I waited for them to sleep. I took my mother's ashes and ran away.
Subscribe for the next episode.